She was like a breath of fresh air. She was witty and funny. Most importantly, she appreciated me for who I was. I'd dated more than one girl whose mission in life seemed to be to change me into what they thought their ideal man should be. Janet was not like that. I met her when we were both taking night classes in Photoshop at a local college. I had just started digital photography and knew next to nothing about how to proofread photos on the computer. I stopped using the darkroom and tried to bring myself into the 21st century. It turned out to be a lot harder than I thought it would be. Damn, what have I done? I said, looking at the screen. My picture had just gotten 10 times bigger than it should have been. Looking in my notes, I found an icon that would undo what I had done. I'm never going to get that, I said in disgust. The woman next to me started giggling. That's not funny, I told her. Now I was more than embarrassed. No, it is, she looked at my screen. Just resize the print by adjusting the pixels or click the size you want. I moved my mouse, clicked on what I thought was the right icon, and saw that my print was too small this time. Damn, I muttered aloud. There was more than one person looking at me now. You don't mind. I've got a problem here, okay? They stared at me, and I stared back at them defiantly. Meanwhile, the girl next to me continued to giggle, still working on her print. I'm just glad my livelihood doesn't depend on my grade in this class. I've never failed a class in my life, but now I'm just bombing, I groaned, hitting the cancel button for the 10th time in the last half hour. My first class wasn't going well. I went through my notes and started again. I cropped my photo to the right size, adjusted the color and contrast, and started to feel pretty confident for the first time that evening. I wanted to resize it to make an 8 by 10 inch print. I clicked on size, entered 8 by 10, ignoring the pixels, whatever they were, and hit enter. It got too big again. All that was left on the screen was the bird's wing. No head, no legs, no body, just that damn wing. Jesus Christ, I frowned as I stared at the screen and pushed myself off the back of my chair. Screw it. I flicked the switch and shut down the computer. Damn, I didn't eject the disk. I was starting to hate the whole thing. I turned the computer back on, got the usual message that I had shut down the machine incorrectly and that it would have to go through a full diagnostic. I can't win. You're letting yourself do this. Why don't you relax? I heard her calm voice. How could anyone be calm in a situation like this? That's easy for you to say. You don't seem to have any problems. Look, I have a few problems, but I'm not going crazy like some people here. If you want, I'll walk you through it, but you have to promise not to go crazy on me. Okay, I promise. But can I use a couple swear words if it doesn't work? She threw me an angry look. Okay, no swear words, but if my brain explodes, it will be your fault, not mine. For the next 20 minutes, she controlled the mouse and did all the clicking. I took notes and asked questions. Why are you here? You seem to know almost as much as the instructor. I have an older version of Photoshop, and it would only cost me $50 to take this course. They're teaching on the newest version, and if I see it's worthwhile, I'll pay $150 to upgrade. If not, I'll just get a little hands-on experience while waiting for the next version to come out. That's a great picture, by the way. Did you take it? Of course I took it, I replied, a little surprised by her question. All the pictures on this disc are mine. Don't bite my head off, I was just asking. Like I said, great shot. What did you use as a lens? Canon f2, 870 to 200 mm lens. The version with ultrasonic and internal stabilization? She asked. Both and both. Are you a photographer? Not really. I just take a lot of pictures at night and at long distances. I mostly shoot sunrises and wildlife. After a long night of photography, the last thing I want to see in the world is a sunrise. I don't like mornings, she replied. My name is Steve, by the way. And mine is Janet. Nice to meet you, Janet. If you don't mind, could we go through this again so that this time I control the mouse? I want to make sure my notes are accurate. That's how I met Janet. We sat next to each other for all 12 classes. What I didn't learn right away, she tried to show me. Sometimes after class, we would stop and have a cup of coffee or a beer. That's how I found out she had a baby at home. I have to go now, she told me one evening. My mom is watching my daughter and it's getting late. With those words, she waited for my answer. How old is she? Her name is Tammy and she just turned 7. She caught my gaze on her left hand. No, I'm not married, in case you're wondering. I was married once before. Sounds like it wasn't the most memorable time of your life. That's a story for another time when we have more than an hour to kill time. I'll see you next Wednesday. She turned and walked out of the coffee shop. Single with a 7-year-old. I spent the next few minutes finishing my coffee and figuring out how old she was. She looked to be about 22, but let's see, 18 plus 7, so she had to be at least 25. I was 27, so I guess there was no problem. I knew she'd planted that bomb on me to see how I reacted. Hopefully, I passed her little test. I made you a CD of my best work. I handed Janet the disc in class the next week. It's a sort of thank you for all your help over the past few weeks. Believe it or not, at one point I thought about dropping out. You don't sound like a quitter? No, but it just didn't work out for me. I know I let myself do it, but I couldn't get my head or brain or anything else to do it. So this is my way of thanking you for helping me, I said with a wide smile. That's it? No money? No dinner? I guess I was a little taken aback. It was a joke. No one has ever given me anything like that before, and I don't know what to say except thank you. The classes got easier and easier as I got the basics down. I still messed up every now and then, but I held my own for a change. I didn't pay much attention to Janet. I could see she was busy with her screen, and today I wanted to study on my own. At break time, we went downstairs, grabbed a couple Cokes each, and sat outside. You're good, damn good, if you haven't realized it yet. What model of Canon are you shooting with right now? Right now, it's a Canon 20D. Or should I say the company I work for, uses a Canon 5D. It's a step up, but for distance, I lack the 1.65 conversion ratio of the older models. I have to use a 1.5 or 2.0 extender to get really long shots, she explained to me. What distance do you shoot at? I asked. Well, let's just say that most of the time I use a f4, 5400mm SLR lens with a 2.0 extender. Wow, so what are you photographing? Hairs on a gnat at 100 yards away? Something like that. Our break ended and we headed back upstairs. Do you mind if I do a little work on these pictures? You know, clean them up a bit? No, they're yours. Do what you want with them. They're a little rough, especially some of the black and white ones. That's why I'm taking this course, to fix what needs fixing. Give me a couple weeks and I'll see what I can do. I particularly like the picture of the 2 birds in the nest. I call it the boys. They're white herons. They were a couple weeks old. The 2 of them were looking at the top of the nest with their necks stretched out as far as they could go, and their eyes seemed to be looking right at my camera. I thought it was a good shot. Everyone who's seen it thinks it's pretty damn comical. Well, it's a good shot, and I thank you for the disc. For the first time, I was starting to feel a little calmer in class. I wasn't pestering Janet or the instructor, and my confidence was growing. I was never great. I never had that much free time, but I just wanted to learn the basics. I wanted to be able to tweak prints that just weren't perfect. However, there was one big problem. I was a perfectionist, and I was damn competitive. I never accepted anything less than perfection. When I would put a piece of work out and it didn't take first place, I would get angry. I've gotten a million second and third places, but never first place. Maybe after this class I can finally achieve what has eluded me all this time. Janet glowed as she walked into the penultimate class. I made a CD for you with 3 pictures I finished this week. I think you'll be impressed. The pictures were fantastic. Wow, that's all I can say. Are you sure these are the same pictures I gave you? They didn't take as much work on them as you might think. I tweaked the color a little and cut out all the nonsense so your eye is drawn to what you photographed. Do you like it? Love it. I smiled approvingly at her. It deserves more than just coffee. How about I take you out to dinner Saturday night? She hesitated for a few seconds before answering. I'm busy this weekend, but maybe some other time. Who was I kidding? A pretty girl like her should have a steady boyfriend by now. I gave her back one of those fake smiles you give to someone who just gave you bad news and told her it was okay. We'll do it some other time. On the last night of class, I turned in all of my papers. I think I did a great job, and although I wasn't expecting an A, I was hoping for at least a B. Janet didn't show up, and why would she? She was just attending class and hadn't turned in any work anyway. You think you're going to pass the exam? If it were me, I'd probably give you a C+ and make you retake the class. I heard a voice behind me. If it weren't for the fact that you still owe me dinner and don't know how to contact me, I wouldn't even show up today. That lifted my spirits. Here are my cell and work numbers. Call me and let me know when you're free. Oh, by the way, I love Chinese food. How about this weekend? I asked, hoping she could hear the excitement in my voice. Let me check my schedule. I often work weekends. Why don't you call me tomorrow night? But if you don't mind, I'm still at work, so I need to get moving. Maybe by Saturday I'll have a chance to finish a couple more of your pictures. After she gave me her phone number and told me to call her, I heard nothing. On Saturday, everything was ready to go. Instead of picking her up, she decided it would be better for us to meet at a restaurant. I guess she didn't want me to know where she lived until she found out if I was a serial killer or a pedophile. Since I was neither, I wasn't too worried. I've never eaten here, though I've only heard good things about the place. It serves both Chinese and Japanese food, so if you like sushi, you can get your portion. All of this was explained to me when we met at the entrance of the restaurant. This was the first opportunity to really explore what she looked like outside of class. Short, dark brown hair, about 5 feet 4 inches tall, and no more than 110 pounds. A slightly larger than average nose, but she had emerald green eyes that I really liked. I must have stared at her longer than I intended when she asked me if I approved of her. Sorry, this is the first time I've ever looked at you. So what the hell have you been doing for the last 12 weeks? Working on not making a fool of myself, but I've noticed you're easy on the eyes. I'll leave that and the fact that you were mentally undressing me a minute ago. It was one of those dinners that takes all night, and I was grateful for it. We started with her, thank goodness. Janet spoke candidly about her past and what she was looking for in life, if she was looking for anything at all. My ex was a scumbag sucking cheater. We lived for 3 years, which was 2.5 years more than he deserved. I caught him cheating one day and gave him a gift. I forgave him on the condition that if he did it again, it was over. When his friend called one night to interrupt their date, I almost broke his neck when he got home from work. I had already packed his things and left them in the driveway in black garbage bags. When he started banging on the door and threatening me, I called the damn police. When he left that night, I never saw or heard from him again. Like I said, my marriage lasted almost 3 years. The only thing he did right was give me Tammy. She's the most important thing in my life, just so you know that right away. Seems like he set a pretty low bar for any guy who followed him. There's no bar, just inflated expectations on my part. I don't play games or settle for second best. You can ask the 5 previous guys I dated. They thought I'd be an easy target. You know, the hard-working single mom who doesn't get a chance to date very often. Who can be wined, dined, and bedded, if not on the first date, then certainly on the second. Are all men really that stupid? These guys were. And the one who didn't want to take no for an answer? I'm not saying I'm bad, but bad men don't mess with me. Let me guess. You're trying to scare me, aren't you? Not scare me, just inform me. Well, I've dated both witches and bitches, and a few nice girls who thought they were God's gift to men. I've only met 2 that I've fallen in love with and lost. The first one thought I didn't fit her idea of a perfect husband, and with the other I did something really stupid and lost her. But that was a long time ago. Smart people grow up and learn from their mistakes. At least I think so. There must have been something really bad to dump a cute guy like you. Let's just say I did something stupid and leave it at that, okay? No problem. I don't want to pry. That's coming from a true woman. Apparently, Janet didn't know how to feel about that, so she hit me from the other side. So, what do you do when you're not taking gorgeous pictures? I run a team that puts together trade show booths for all the national trade shows. I work in New York, Chicago, Las Vegas, and Orlando. At any trade show that comes to town, I make sure everything is set up correctly and all the exhibitors are happy. Trade shows? Yes, such as the new electronics show, car shows, home building, and a million others. They usually run from Thursday through Saturday. I make sure everything is ready on time, packed and shipped back by Sunday morning. If I have two shows going on at the same time, I sometimes pick the one I'm most interested in and work it. I have enough acquaintances, and if I need anything, I can always find a good deal from one of my friends. Doesn't it get tiresome after a while? I mean, doing the same thing from week to week? Asked Janet, probably wondering how often I'm in town. It's always something new, and I get to know a lot of people. The only problem is that traveling all the time gets a little lonely. You eat alone, maybe have a drink in the hotel bar, and then go up to your room to sleep. The money is good, but that's the only downside. Steve, a good-looking guy like you, there must be a million girls working on the show who would love to park your shoes under their bed for the night, she said almost sarcastically. Not anymore, I replied. When we were finally kicked out, we found ourselves in the parking lot. Well, Mr. Stephen Moore, I had a wonderful time tonight. Well, Miss Janet Collins, so did I. We both looked at each other and started laughing loudly. Okay, I know I'm not going to have any luck tonight, I told her with slight sarcasm. She studied me and was apparently waiting for my next line. Now that the first and most difficult date is behind us, the next 10 to 20 should go smoothly. So, if I'm not mistaken, you want to go out with me again because I'm hell-bent on seeing you again. This time, why don't you check your schedule and give me a call? I'm free most nights, but I'm not the kind of person who needs to worry about anyone else. You seem confident. If it wasn't, there's no way you'd let me do this, I said as I hugged her and kissed her. A lady doesn't run after a man, so let me know your work schedule for the next 2 weeks and we'll be sure to do it again. Janet kissed me, and I knew I was interested in this girl, even though she seemed like a real hard ass. The only thing I could surmise was that she'd been hurt at least once before, and she was damn sure it wouldn't happen again. I wasn't sure what I wanted, but meeting her was on my priority list. Because of her work schedule and mine, we had a hard time getting together for our next date and the 10 more that followed. I learned that Janet worked for a detective firm. She didn't tell me much except that she was one of the 4 partners in the firm. When I pressed her and asked her what types of investigations she does, she said various and mostly confidential, so she couldn't tell me anything specific. I asked if she would let me go with her sometime. She looked at me with a look that I was used to by now and said no way in hell. I brushed it off. When I suggested we spend a full day at Disneyland's Magic Kingdom, Janet informed me that she liked Epcot much better. But I'm willing to bet that Tammy would probably like the Magic Kingdom better. That, my friend, started a discussion that lasted all evening. Instead of going out, we ordered dinner when we realized we weren't even close to solving our problems. Steve, I don't include Tammy in my dates. I don't want her to meet every guy I go out with because most of them don't stay long. Tammy is too precious to me. I don't want her to get attached to some guy so he'll dump her when things don't go his way. There's no way I'm letting her go through that heartache. Look, I don't know where this is going to go between us, but I think you've already realized that I'm not just in it for your hot body. That brought a slight smile to her face. Tammy is a huge part of your life, and if we're going to move on, don't you think you're obligated to meet her? Hell, she might hate me, and I might think she's a spoiled brat like her mom and leave you to fend for yourself. This time, it was my turn to smile. We spent most of the next 2 hours figuring out each other's intentions and what we were both looking for in this new relationship. I wasn't ready for a serious relationship yet, but I wanted us to be exclusive in the future. Janet wanted to know what I meant by an exclusive relationship, and when I told her that, she wasn't too happy about it. You mean not going anywhere or with anyone? What about just being friends with a guy, like having a couple drinks after work? I don't know how jealous or doubtful you are of me having friends of the opposite sex, but I don't have many, even outside of work. Janet, if you want to date others, just let me know, and I won't have to worry about putting any effort into the relationship. We can date whenever we want, have a good time, and leave it at that. However, if you're looking for something more than just a casual boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, then we should be exclusive. One day we're going to be intimate, and I don't want to worry about who I'm sleeping with. You think I'm sleeping with someone? Janet replied irritably. What about you? Who are you sleeping with? I'm not sleeping with anyone, including you, much to my dismay. You just need to make a decision on where you want to go with it, that's all. After that, I'll know how to proceed. This didn't go at all the way I had envisioned. I thought she would be beyond thrilled that I wanted to include Tammy in our plans. This girl had some serious trust issues, and I was giving her the opportunity to work them out with me. I knew that could only happen if we had an exclusive relationship. I didn't want to worry about someone else muddying the waters. I also didn't want a third person in our bed, so to speak, so I decided to give her the time she needed to make a decision. When she called on Tuesday and wanted to meet Thursday or Friday night, I told her I couldn't. I'll be in Chicago until noon Sunday, working the dry cleaning equipment show at the McCormick Convention Center. I'm flying out tomorrow, so let me call you when I get back, or we can talk on the phone in the evenings. Janet wanted to talk face to face, but during the week she called me on my cell phone. Steve, I'm going to miss you. That sounded very eloquent to me. She called me on Friday night just before 10 o'clock. I had already finished dinner and was listening to the band in the hotel lounge when she called. It was pretty loud in there, and the band from out of town was in full force. The women were on a roll, yelling and laughing. Hey, what's up? I said, answering the phone. Tammy is sleeping, and I was just finishing up my journal when I remembered you and thought I'd call. What are you doing? Just listening to a pretty decent lounge band before heading upstairs. Things are going perfectly this week. I'm hoping to catch the 11 o'clock Sunday morning flight if everything goes according to plan. At that moment, two drunk women from the group staggered over to the bar, bumped into me, and spilled their drinks on me. Ladies, please watch where you're going, I tried to say in a polite manner. I grabbed some napkins off the counter, trying to wipe my pants. Here, let me help you with that wet spot, one of them muttered, grabbing a handful of napkins as well. Maybe we should take you upstairs and get rid of those pants, she announced a little too loudly. Her friend giggled. It's okay, ladies. It's no big deal. Thank goodness they took the hint and staggered away. Sorry about that, I said to Janet when I was finally able to return my attention to her call. Like I said, some people just can't drink. Sounds like you're in the middle of a big party, Janet said loudly. No, everyone's just blowing off steam. You take these people out of their usual surroundings, give them a few drinks, and they go crazy, I tried to explain to her. Sounds like you have your hands full. Why don't you give me a call when you get back to town? She ended our conversation and disconnected. Was it just me, or was there a note of irritation in her voice before she hung up? I didn't hesitate long, and the following Tuesday night we did talk. We had dinner at my house and defined a list of limitations on our relationship. We would be exclusive in every sense of the word, and Tammy would participate in all of our activities where appropriate. She liked the idea of a trip to Disney, but she wouldn't agree to the three of us having dinner at my house. We were going to take things slowly and quietly. I was feeling pretty good and filled our glasses with wine again. Here's to us, I toasted, touching my glass to her glass. We both drank our glasses. After a while, we went to the bed. After that, we became a formal couple. Neither of us liked each other's work schedules, but we learned to live with it. Whenever I started asking questions about her work and types of clients, she would pull back a little. Steve, I can't talk about my clients. 90% of the time, litigation will ensue because of what we find out, and I don't want to jeopardize any case by discussing it with you. I didn't like that, but I understood. I just don't want to have to call you 007 or anything like that. I let the whole thing slide. When I brought Janet and Tammy to meet my parents, she was nervous as hell. Relax, they won't bite, and if they like you half as much as I do, you'll do fine. The evening went well until Mom and Janet started talking about my past. She told Mom about her ex-husband, and Mom told her about my ex-fiancé. I didn't know Steve was engaged. She threw a surprised look in my direction. Yes, you were, but it was a long time ago. I think Steve was a little too wild for his own good back then. They were both lucky they never got married. With Steve's wandering gaze and Beth being so stroppy, it wouldn't have worked out for them. It's a good thing Steve grew up. I couldn't hear everything they were talking about, but it was enough for me to realize I was a dead man. So I pretended I hadn't heard anything and hoped Janet wouldn't bring it up. The truth was that I had cheated on Beth when I was out of town for 1 week, and she found out about it. It turned out horribly, and though I begged her to forgive me, she said if I cheated, I cheated. The wedding was called off and she gave me the ring back. That was 5 years ago, but the pain and regret were still there, deep inside me. That night I waited for Janet to talk about it, but she never did. 2 weeks later, I was about to say something, but I decided to refrain. Hell, if she wanted to ask me about it, I'd wait for her to speak up herself. Honey, I'll be out of town next week. I'll be working at an auto show in New York. I thought you were going to be working the ski equipment show in Orlando. Was going to, but with the new cars coming into showrooms this fall, I want to see them up close and personal. Steve, at the prices they're asking for them, you won't be able to afford any of those exotic cars, she reminded me. I know that, but I can take a look, can't I? And I suppose there'll be model hotties everywhere? Sure, but honey, you're the only hot model I want to look at, I said, mimicking a big wet puppy. She slapped my arm. It was a big international show. At least 3 teams were setting up booths and running 1,000,000 miles of electrical wires and computer lines between routers. It took us 2 full days to set up. We also had to have 2 meetings a day to make sure we stayed on schedule. By Wednesday night, we were on a roll. The show opened at 10 the next morning, and we all had to make sure everything went according to plan. I was alone in the hotel restaurant and struggling to get my steak down when I heard someone address me. Do you mind if I sit with you? All the tables are already taken and I hate eating alone. She was pretty damn cute and had a killer body. Sure, I said, standing up and pushing the chair across from mine. Thanks, she said, sitting down with her tray. I'm Katie, and this is my first show. Are they all that crazy? Most aren't that crazy, but this is an international show, so it's bigger than most others. What are you going to do? I asked, sizing her up. I'll be handing out programs and directing people to the different exhibits. I hope I don't screw up. I've never done anything like this before. Relax and don't worry. Even if you get in trouble, pat your pretty eyes and tell them you're new here, but would be happy to help them in any way you can. No guy will get mad at you once you turn on your charm. You think I have pretty eyes? I nodded affirmatively, and we both went back to eating. I finished first and bowed out, telling her I had to attend a renewal meeting. Remember what I told you, and tomorrow will be a walk in the park for you. Maybe I'll see you on the floor, I said with a smile as I wished her a good night. Everything was ready, and we would find out by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning how well we had done. Janet called me just after 11. Hi, darling. How are you holding up? I'm very busy and looking forward to this week being over. How's your new project coming along? Before I left, she informed me that they would be working on an important case this week. So far, so good. I should have it finished Saturday night. You haven't bought anything yet, have you? Not yet, but the exhibit doesn't open until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Who knows? Maybe I'll be driving home on Sunday in something sleek, elegant. Look, Buster, the only sleek thing you'll be popping in on Sunday night is me. I don't have 4 wheels, but I've got everything you need. We both laughed and I told her I missed her. Don't worry, I left my credit card at home on purpose, and besides, my bank account can't take $100,000 hit. Hell, I only had 5,000 in savings and a lot less in my account, not counting the 401k contribution. I never saw Katie on the floor on Thursday, which was probably a good sign that she was doing okay. They always hired all the best-looking models in town for these shows, and it usually worked. We had two minor problems, but nothing more than that. At about 5:30 the first day was over and I was feeling pretty good. Tonight for dinner, I ventured out and ordered my favorite dish, 2 lobster tails. I grabbed a bottle of white wine and was just starting to eat when Katie showed up. Sit down, girl, and tell me about your first day on the floor, I said, pulling out a chair. We spent the next hour talking and discussing our first day. I didn't realize it would be so crowded. I had to restock every hour. Wait until tomorrow and Saturday if you think it was crowded today. We'll probably have twice as many people. My feet are swollen after standing on them all day. I'm not used to standing on a hard surface for 8 hours without a break. Buy gel shoe inserts. They'll make a difference. Steve, have you seen the shoes I have to wear? They're 4-inch high heel shoes with straps here and there just to hold them on. There's not enough material there to hold the insert. Maybe you can attach them to the bottom of your feet. No offense, but if you're going to have a career for a short time, you need to know the tricks of the trade. I've already been asked about the tricks of the trade by more than one male exponent. Kathy, you're going to get jerks everywhere here. Just smile at them, tell them you're not interested, and move on. But don't be surprised if you see more than one girl not leaving. I know more than one person who makes a living catering to a certain clientele. That's their business, and I'm not going to judge what another person does. We talked for another half hour or so and finished my bottle of wine. Do you want to lounge in the hot tub tonight? I think it's just what my body needs. I'd love to, but I have a big day tomorrow and I need as much sleep as possible tonight. But thanks for the offer. Maybe next time. I apologized, went up to my room and called Janet. Her cell phone wasn't answering. She was probably back in her van taking pictures. She always turned her cell phone off when she was working. I left a message. Friday was a rough one, but it was uneventful for a change. Kathy never showed up for dinner, and all the floor staff were invited to the lounge to toast the hotel between 9 and 10 o'clock. I figured a shot or two would relax me enough to go straight to sleep. There was only one day left, but Saturday was usually a crazy day. I didn't see Katie, but I could hear her right behind me. I'm not going to tell you again to get your hands off me, I heard her say. I got up and went to look for her. She was sitting in one corner with a middle-aged man. He didn't seem to be taking no for an answer, and she was more than upset. I didn't recognize him as one of my employees, and at this point, I didn't care who he was. I just needed to get this over with. Sorry, dear, I'm late. I'm stuck on the floor, I said to the two surprised people. Where are my manners? Hi, I'm Steve Moore, and I assume you've already met my fiancée, Kathy, I said, looking directly at him. Honey, we don't have a problem, do we? No, honey, that man was just leaving, she said, looking at both of us with relief. Yeah, I should get going. It was nice meeting you both. He disappeared into the crowd. Steve, I can't thank you enough. He kept groping me and didn't want to leave, she said with her wide smile. I owe you a drink. She pointed to the waitress. We spent the next 2 hours talking and drinking. I had 3 and she had 1, but hell, they were free, so I didn't care. When she asked me to dance, I said yes, but stopped at 1 when she started getting a little too friendly with the hand-waving. You're just beautiful, Steve. Handsome, smooth, and a great dancer. Can I talk you into joining me in the hot tub tonight? Maybe tomorrow, Kathy. I've got another crazy day ahead of me, and I'll need to get my act together. I've had too much to drink tonight, and 20 minutes in the hot tub will probably put me to sleep. With me in the hot tub, I'd make sure you didn't fall asleep, she purred with that cocky look in her eyes. You really are a cranky girl, aren't you? I hope I can trust you to go back to your room alone, because there's going to be hell on earth at the showroom tomorrow. Get some sleep, and I'll see you tomorrow. This girl is built for comfort, I said to myself. I knew the Ferraris that probably wouldn't be able to keep up with her once she got going. A cold shower and checking messages was as good as it gets. Hi, honey, Janet's message read. Sorry I missed you, but I just wanted to say hi. I love you and can't wait for Sunday. Remember, no cars. With that, she finished and I turned off the bedside lamp. There was still light coming through the window, and as my eyes adjusted, I remembered how 5 years ago, another girl who worked on the floor came to my room. I opened the door, and when she walked in, I realized I was in trouble. I was engaged and never planned on taking her to bed. It just happened, or so I told Beth. We partied together that night and went to our rooms, but she wasn't tired, and I guess I wasn't either. We didn't make love, more like use each other to fulfill our animal needs. We did it 3 times that night, and she did things to me that Beth never dreamed of. We would never see each other again, so there were no regrets, no shame, just a great night. The only problem was that when she left my room, one of my employees, who was also a friend of Beth's, saw her. I never realized what came over me when I got home. At first I tried to lie, but when that didn't work, I threw myself on her mercy and begged for forgiveness. I was drunk and didn't realize what I was doing. It was just for fun, and I promised her I would never do it again. But it didn't work. She left me and never wanted to see me again. There was no wedding, no bride, but the grief and heartache was more than enough. I was shit in everyone's eyes. I swore I would never make a mistake like that again. Saturday, I walked around the showroom looking at all the beautiful cars. I must have said if only to myself 1,000,000 times, dreaming of owning 5 or 10 of them, and that night I bought an extra lottery ticket. How was your last day on the floor? I asked Kathy, who replied with a broad smile that she had spent it happily. It's not so bad once you get the hang of it. I think I almost enjoyed it, and I made money too. She looked simply gorgeous and rested from a full day on the floor. She could have a great future if her looks held up. If you don't mind me asking, how much did you make a day? $25 an hour on Thursday and Friday, and $50 an hour for today. That also doesn't include paying for room, food, and clothing. All in all, it was worth it. Well, I've seen a few cars I'd like to have one day, but unless I win the lottery, it's never going to happen. Steve, remember, you promised me you'd join me in the hot tub tonight, and I'm obliging you, she reminded me in an almost scolding tone. The hotel complex gave me a bottle of champagne, and I'll bring it with me. How about 7:30? I nodded and decided I'd give her 20 minutes to lounge in the hot tub before I went back to my room. Katie was in the tub waiting for me. Her costume consisted of so much material that if you put both pieces in your hand and closed it, you couldn't see anything. The bottle was more than half empty, and Kathy didn't seem to feel any pain. I poured myself a glass, climbed into the tub, and enjoyed the hot water jets massaging my sore legs and feet. More than once I had to try to control Kathy's feet. They seemed to be on a search and destroy mission to get into my shorts. When she approached me and told me to relax with no one else around, I realized I was in trouble. Katie, if you stay in that tub any longer, you're going to be labeled, well done. Maybe you should walk me back to my room. I think I'm a little dizzy from drinking champagne, she declared with a drunken laugh. I helped her up and took the half-empty bottle. When we got there, she couldn't even find the room keycard slot. I grabbed it, pushed the door open, and propped it open with the door frame. You want to come in? I have a warm bed, among other things, she said. It's just one night and no one has to know. I can guarantee you won't be disappointed. It took every ounce of moral fortitude I had to hold her back. As much as I'd like to, I just can't. There's a girl waiting for me at home that I care more about than having fun with you. And even though you say no one will find out, I will, and I'll never see her again if I accept your offer. So even though I'll probably need 2 cold showers tonight, I have to decline your offer. Are you sure? More than sure, I replied. Kathy, let me help you into your room, I said, as I put my arm around her to guide her into the room. Steve, that won't be necessary, she said, tying her top and turning to me in a stone-sober voice as she straightened up. Katie, are you okay? I'm fine, and you're probably fine too. I don't understand, I started, as she pushed the door open, and I saw in the mirror the reflection of another person in her room. Janet, I said as I walked through the door. Janet, what are you doing here? I stuttered, looking around at all the camera equipment. Kathy followed me into the room and closed the door. Steve, I can explain all this. Janet sounded like a kid who got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Janet, what the hell is going on here? I asked, looking first at her and then at Kathy. They both looked nervous. Sorry, Steve. I had to make sure, were the next words out of her mouth. Jesus Christ, I screamed. Was this whole thing a freaking setup? I looked at Katie. And you were the goddamn bait? My face must have turned 10 shades of red when I realized what had happened. Steve, it's not as bad as it looks, Kathy said, trying to calm me down. Katie, I called out to her, I think it would be in your best interest to keep your goddamn mouth shut right now. She put on a t-shirt and sat down on the bed at the other end of the room. At that moment, I turned my attention back to a nervous Janet. Why? Why did you do this to me? And then it hit me, talking to my mom. I guess in your book, once a cheater, always a cheater, right? Steve, with Tammy and everything, I had to be sure. Well, I guess you got your damn answer. Satisfied? Steve, please don't be mad. What would I be mad at, Janet? I spat back at her. My girlfriend thinks I'm a cheater and hires some whore to get me into bed and prove I'm not worthy of her. Oh, I'm sorry. After 4 days, she couldn't do it, so I had to take your goddamn test. Well, Janet, you can take that goddamn test and shove it up your ass for all I care. I didn't bother going back to my room, and when my cell phone rang, I threw it against the hotel wall. I would later berate myself for doing that. I was in no condition to drive, so I started walking, or should I say running. An hour later, I was still angry but already exhausted. I got back to my hotel room at 2 in the morning. I was physically and emotionally exhausted and fell asleep just after 4 in the morning, still in my clothes. Waking up brought me back to life. After showering and shaving, I headed to the conference room. It was a madhouse. Everyone was dismantling their booths and packing up. I met up with my supervisor, Tim. We went over the schedule and dove headfirst into work. 3 hours later, it was time for cleanup. Boss, I tried calling your phone, but it went straight to voicemail, Tim told me. My phone had an accident, and I'll have to buy another one tomorrow, I explained. Just make sure everything is cleaned up before you close the doors. I don't need anyone else sitting on my ass today before I leave. You guys did a great job this week. I'll see you on Monday. I left. I checked out of the hotel, returned the rental car, and flew home before noon. For the first time in my life, I was glad to be without my phone. The 3.5-hour flight home gave me too much time to dwell on my problems. I tried to sleep, but my brain and the in-flight movie prevented it. Every time I thought about what Janet had done, I got angry all over again. I felt like a puppet that had been played for 4 damn days. This was probably the big project she'd told me she'd been working on while I was out of town. And here I thought she was actually working, not trying to do her best to get me to cheat on her. The only thing that made me happy was that I didn't. It would have been so damn easy, and Katie was so incredibly beautiful. But I resisted. I turned out to be a lot stronger than I thought I was. I landed, got my luggage, and walked out to my car parked in the long-term parking lot. All I wanted to do was drive home, take a shower, and drink a couple dozen beers. I needed to get drunk to ease the pain of being pranked. The answering machine was full. Some were from my boss wondering why he couldn't reach me on my cell phone, one from Tim informing me that it was 3 o'clock and he was leaving because everything was ready. The others were from Janet. Steve, please call me, we need to talk. And another, I'm sorry, that was a stupid thing to do and I'm sorry. Just 2 out of 20. The last person in the world I wanted to talk to right now was Janet. After finishing the 5 beers that were in the fridge, I started on the bottle of white Zinfandel that was in my wine cabinet. I wanted to get drunk enough to fall asleep so I wouldn't have to relive the last 4 days over and over in my brain. I wondered how far Kathy would go if I gave in to her. I know Janet was in her room Saturday night, but what about Friday when she wanted to go to the hot tub? Saturday, when I walked into that room, I remembered seeing all of Janet's camera equipment, and now I put two and two together. She was always in the background taking pictures of the two of us. God, so that's why she never picked up the phone when I called her. I was pissed off again. When the sun peeked through my bedroom window, I realized I was late for work. I felt like shit. I stripped off my clothes and took a shower. As I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and shaved, the mirror reflected back to me that I looked like shit. I deleted all her messages, but as I walked by, I noticed 10 new ones. I must have really been drunk last night. I hadn't heard the phone ring once. I smiled. Mission accomplished. Damn, Steve, I haven't seen you in this condition in a long time, my boss said when I showed up 2 hours late. You're not going back to the old Steve, are you? God, I sure as hell wouldn't want to put up with that idiot again. Just had too much to drink last night, that's all. I reached for the coffee pot, hoping the coffee would help me feel human again. Good, because we need to coordinate schedules this morning, and I need to discuss something with you as soon as possible. Henry, give me 5 minutes to finish my coffee and check my email, and we'll meet at your office. He nodded in agreement and left. And what the hell did I do? Of the 42 emails, 75% turned out to be garbage. A third of them required a yes or no answer, and the rest would have to wait until he met with Henry. Have a seat and close the door, he asked the secretary to hold our calls. I got the first feedback from the convention center about last week's trade show, and it looks like we have a bit of a problem. Oh, shit, were the first words that echoed through my brain as I tried to remember what we screwed up or forgot. They called me this morning and told me that because of the way we handled the New York show, they want us to handle San Francisco and Detroit. I tensed and squirmed, waiting for the bad news I had almost missed. Let me get this straight. Did they like it? More than liked it, they liked the way you and Tim handled the crew. They said it was the best show in the last 5 years, and with the exception of a couple burps on Thursday, everything went off without a hitch. I wrote a little thank you check for you and Tim for all your hard work last week, he glowered. They want you and Tim to visit both sites this week. They want to explain what they need and set up a schedule for next year. It's a huge opportunity for all of us. This week? Why, do you have something going on that I don't know about? The only thing I know is that this week we have a hell of a lot of paperwork that needs to be done from last weekend. I wanted to cry. I won't be able to fly out until tomorrow, and I think 3 days at each facility will be more than enough. You and Tim will stay there as long as they need you to, okay? You're the boss, I replied. Damn right I am. Now get out of here. Go with Tim and get on the earliest possible flight tomorrow. And by the way, where the hell is your cell phone? It's kind of broken. Well, then buy it today. I can't have my best guy out in the field without it. I bought a replacement on the way to my house. I called Tim and told him the short version. He wasn't thrilled about leaving town again tomorrow. Look at it this way. When you hand your wife a fat bonus check and tell her to go nuts, she'll probably cheer you up when you get back. He laughed, but I didn't. I still had one more matter to take care of before I left. I was packed by 8:30 and was just going over my plans when her letter arrived. It was pretty much the same as all the others. She apologized that I wasn't supposed to see her and that she needed to meet me so we could talk. She said something about the L word and that we could work things out. I hit the reply button. Janet, I think the last thing you want to do right now is talk to me. I'm still so angry, I don't know how I would act or what I would say, but it wouldn't be nice. I'm going away for about a week and a half, and by the time I get back, I'll probably have calmed down a bit. While I'm gone, I need you to do one thing, and only if you want to. I need you to think hard about why you did this to me, or should I say, to us. You can give me the long version or the short version, and we can do it by email or in person. That will be your prerogative since you started it. All I want to know is why I think you owe me this much. Why don't we set up a meeting in a week, this Thursday at the Chinese restaurant where we had our first date? Maybe that will bring us some luck. unless you're trying to trap some unsuspecting husband that night. So I'll see you Thursday at 7:30. If you decide not to come, I understand. Steve? Knowing that I was taking an unfair jab at the comment about the unsuspecting husband, I hit the send button anyway. We were busy, but I couldn't take my mind off Janet and those 4 hellish days. We finished work a day early and spent all day Wednesday in the office poring over papers. I didn't sleep a wink Wednesday night, revising what I was going to say 1,000 times and changing it for the 10th time. By Thursday night, I had no idea what I wanted to say. I decided I was just going to talk. We took a booth in the back of the room and immediately made reservations to be alone. Janet came prepared. Heck, she had everything she was going to say printed out, double-spaced. Small talk was scarce. We both knew what we were here for. She asked if she could speak first. I could see she was ready to explode. She made some valid arguments. She talked about her cheating husband, the fact that I cheated on Beth, the fact that she had serious trust issues, and that she had to look out for Tammy. The fact that she kept hearing female voices in the background every time I called her made her somewhat suspicious. After all, she just had to find out for herself if I would cheat again if the opportunity presented itself. She hoped that we could get through this and that she thought we might have a future. I thought about her words and completely forgot about what I was going to say. The time I wished I had made a list like hers. Janet, you made some good points, especially about your daughter's defense. Your story, mine, and what happened are all valid points. But my first question is, why didn't you just talk to me about your concerns? Did you think I would lie to you or just tell you what you wanted to hear? You see, in some ways you're like my ex-fiancée Beth. Deep down you don't believe, like her, that a person can change. She started to say something, but I stopped her. Please let me finish. My mother herself said I had a wandering eye, but that was a long time ago, and I'm all grown up now. I've shown you, and even more so myself, that I've changed and that I'm stronger than I thought I was. And you know what made me so strong? It's my feelings for you. Steve, we can get through this. You didn't cheat, Janet reminded him. This time, what happens 6 months, a year, 5 years from now when you start doubting again? Who will you send then? You say you had trust issues, and now I have the same issues. Every time I see a pretty girl smiling at me or flirting with me, I wonder if it's one of your plants. If I see the same guy twice, I'll wonder if I'm being followed. And finally, I'll always wonder if you're bugging my hotel room, my car, or looking at all my emails and text messages on my phone. You see, trust is a double-edged sword, and it swings both ways. We're both cut and bleeding right now, and our relationship is on life support. Steve, I know I overreacted, but I've been hurt before and I didn't want to go through it again. Relationships are short-lived at best. Hell, 50% of marriages end in divorce. But I put myself out there, analyzed and supposedly trusted you. Looks like I was wrong. You killed what we had before I left Wednesday morning, and now I don't see how we can get it back. Can't we try? A remorseful Janet asked. I'm willing to try, I just don't want you to get your hopes up. We talked and had a nice dinner. Neither of us ate much and we kissed goodnight, which was only natural. We emailed and even met up 2 more times, but what we had was almost dead. Son, I can't believe you're breaking up with Janet over such a trivial matter. Can't you see that she just wanted to make sure you were for real? Mom was trying to get me to see that Janet was right. No one seemed to see it from my point of view. No matter, we were almost done. After work on Thursday, I decided to take Tim and his wife out to dinner as a sort of thank you for all the hard work he had put in over the past 2 months. When we entered the restaurant, a little after 7, I saw her, but thankfully, she didn't notice me. Maybe we should go and find somewhere else, Tim said, looking at me for direction. And miss the show? Not on your life. We ate and drank and I watched and studied. We even kissed on the lips a few times. After dessert, I told Tim that I would see him in the morning. Steve, please don't do anything stupid. Henry will get his ass kicked if I let you go to jail. Don't worry. I'm just going to say hi to an old friend. I walked over to their table. Good evening, Janet, I said, taking her by surprise. I see now that your job involves a lot more than just taking pictures, as you told me. She started to say something, but stopped halfway through. Apparently, the truth and credibility in your book is only one way. Too bad. Well, go on. I wouldn't think of interrupting someone when they are doing something they really enjoy. I heard Steve say, wait, but kept walking to my car. And then I got another email from her trying to explain that she was only working and had never slept with any man, but I never responded. Trust. I never knew that one word could cause so much pain and suffering in my life. But now when I meet someone, I tell them in advance what I expect, and if they can't handle it, well, there are plenty of fish in the sea, as they say. The end. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.